Hi,
Ugh,
John.
hello.
What's the
I
sigh?
I'm using my AirPods connected to my laptop, but I'm also using my iPad to keep an eye on um, like what people see when they watch the show. And my iPad and my laptop are always fighting over my AirPods, and it's really
Yeah.
annoying to me because I basically want to put it in a mode where iPad never gets them and the laptop always gets them.
Hmm.
Which basically means turning off Bluetooth on the iPad, but I always forget, and then right at the last minute, it happened anyway. Hi, how are
And so
you?
did you turn the Bluetooth off?
I turned Bluetooth off on my iPad, and so I expect it will stop trying to fight um, with my laptop.
Great. Great. Um, I have that problem with my phone and my computer,
Got it.
or like with my just my Bluetooth headset,
Mhm.
and it's like slightly different. Where I don't know, like last connected always wins, so I don't hear anything out of the other thing. Unless except for when I get a phone call on my phone and I'm like listening to someone in a meeting and then all of a sudden I don't hear any sound at all and I suddenly realize it's because my phone has been ringing for like the last minute. It's great.
Yeah,
Bluetooth, the world's most disappointing technology.
it's not great.
So much potential.
Yeah, was it?
Tell
I don't know. Is that true?
I don't know. I'm trying to say nice things.
I don't see us yet on my iPad, so I'm gonna just try again.
Oh
We might have a
no.
thing going on.
Oh, we have one live viewer according to StreamYard.
There we go. That was a
The
glitch.
question is it you or is it Pavlos?
I am also in there. We'll see if Pavlos says anything to us.
Yeah.
Um,
Just don't say anything mean
no,
about him
I wouldn't. I wouldn't dream
because
of it.
he might actually watch it.
Yeah. What are you drinking? He sees us. It's him.
It's him. Great. So I actually am doing a thing that the local baseball stadium refers to as the two-fisted slobber. I've got two drinks today. One of
Nice.
them is non-alcoholic, a
Hmm,
non-alcoholic beer, which I have been enjoying non-alcoholic beers a lot lately
interesting.
because they don't give me a headache, which I like.
Right.
However, I'm throwing that out the window by also drinking probably the strongest whiskey seven that I've ever mixed. So,
Oops.
oops, indeed. What are you drinking over there?
I have a Trollway, which
That's a
is
fun
a
name.
yeah. And look at that art, Steve. I am a huge fan of this brewery. Um,
Yeah.
that's kind of like their jam is to have that kind of fun artwork on their different um, styles,
Yep.
and they like have like a character for each one. Um, this is the one that I picked up this time, but Insight is the brewery.
Insights. Is that a Minnesota beer?
Hmm.
It is.
Yeah.
Cool. I remember you and I have talked about beer can art from a brewery that you used to live near in Naperville, Illinois. But I
That's
can't remember the name
right.
of the brewery. They just
Oh,
have like super metal artwork. It's
damn
the
it! Why can't
best.
I think of that? That's gonna drive me nuts. Okay, I will. I
Solemn
will let
Oath.
that
Solemn Oath.
solemn oath.
That's
There
what
you
it
go. You
is.
did it.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
That's my
the
favorite beer can art.
yeah. I think Surly is in the same ballpark, um, but not all of their bottle art is that style. They kind of have um, different ones are different, go in different directions. But their darkness, their Russian Imperial Stout, always is
Ooh.
well is usually done by some kind of like tattoo artist that they commission to do because they do like an annual release.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what you want. Like a tattoo artist is usually going to do some pretty
Yeah.
kick ass beer can art.
For sure. I started following that Solemn Oath artist on Twitter when I used to use Twitter.
Oh, you mean X? I think you're thinking of X.
I am thinking of X. You're right. I forgot. And yeah, he just like most of what he didn't really share anything, but
Hmm,
I just wanted to like hang out with the guy
yeah,
and have him like draw pictures for me.
right. You want to be around when he's drawing. Hey,
Yeah.
I saw a metal show last night.
Oh, you did.
I
Who was
did.
it?
Baroness. Do you know the band
Yeah.
Baroness?
Wait.
Yeah,
Oh, tonight they're in Chicago. Were they in Minnesota last night?
that's right.
I was thinking about getting tickets for tonight, but I saw that it was on a Wednesday
Yeah.
that we were
Yes, I'm
streaming. So
far too old to go to a show on a Tuesday night. Me and my brother-in-law went.
yeah,
Um,
that's cool.
I
You
still
had
have
you
like
like had
ringing in
each
my
other to kind of
ears.
like push you to get out there.
hmm hmm
Was it a good show?
it it was a great show. Fairness was great. They had two openers. Hadn't heard of either of those bands. One of them was called Spotlights,
Oh
and
yeah, I just listened to them,
this
and
is
I
so
liked
funny.
them quite a
They're
bit.
great. Yeah,
Yeah,
I loved their set. They were great.
yeah,
Um, a little sludgy, doomy,
yep.
stoner. Like they
Kind of
just
like
all of
ethereal a little bit too.
yep.
Yep,
It's a three piece. Husband and wife do the
that's wild.
guitar and singing, and then the bass, and then they have a drummer. And yeah, they did a great job. The second opener, which I'm not going to name, you can do the work to find out
Ooh.
who they are. They're terrible. Not terrible. They were not good.
Was it a
Um,
local band?
no, they were not. They're from Oklahoma
Oh
or some
no,
weird shit like that.
really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Um, the singer came on without any shoes on, and before too long, he popped his top, and he was not a slim gentleman,
Yeah.
and hmm it it just didn't work. From like that was just the tip of the iceberg. But anyway, fairness, great. Um, do you want to program computers or do you want to keep talking?
I want to keep talking because
Okay,
I just want to tell I got to tell this story last week at work
okay.
because we did a fun group game. Oh, sorry.
Oh, fun.
Where it was like a music quiz, but it was run by this professional group. Like they have I forget this company's name, but they like run fun
Yeah,
team building experiences through
got it.
Zoom, which like you think it can't happen, but it can happen.
Hmm.
And so the first question as we were just hanging out, they asked was, "Oh, what's everybody's favorite concert that they've been to? Like, have you had like one memorable one?" And I got to tell the story about my favorite concert, which was a long time ago. I was probably in the early 2000s. It was this band named Les Savivav, and that's spelled Lesavyfav, and it sounds very French, but I think it means absolutely nothing in French. I think
Okay.
that's the point of the name is it's like nonsense. But they're like a super art indie band, indie rock, and kind of what you were describing, like shoes off, shirt off, big belly. The singer definitely like would do that, but he also would just do like really weird, bizarre shit. Like I remember seeing
Mm.
one concert on YouTube where he just like got in a garbage can, a big garbage can, and then like crowd surfed in the garbage can and sang for an entire song. But the concert that I was at, I was like this hugest fan. I was in the front row. He started singing a song and he handed me his microphone. And
What?
so I'm like holding the microphone for him to sing into. I'm like, fuck yeah, this is cool.
That's
And then
cool.
he's like singing and whatever. And he grabs scissors and starts cutting my hair. Like while he's
What?
singing into the microphone that I'm holding, he's like cutting all of the hair off the side of my head. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like not caring because my hair was long and shaggy like it is now. It was just wild. And then he made a pile of my hair, continuing to sing into the microphone that I was holding, and started lighting it on fire. It was the
What?
best thing ever. Yeah. Like totally, like you don't even think that this is a thing that would happen, but it
No,
was just
no one would
bananas.
expect that.
No. Nope. Okay, we can program computers. We're 10 minutes in. Guess what? I did.
What'd you do?
Guess what I did not do?
I don't know. Make an
Update
agenda.
my browser.
Oh,
So
Steve.
I have things I want to share today.
Okay.
So, John, do you want to kind of remind everybody where we're at? Because I remember, and I'm going to drop out of this stream and come right back with an updated browser so that I can share my screen.
Yes,
Does
I
that
will
sound
do
good?
that.
Okay,
I'm
I'll
gonna
be
do it.
right back.
Okay. See you in a sec. All right. I'm gonna share my entire screen. This one. I'm gonna move this over here. Okay. So we are working on a game called Crank Champs, We did some work to count the cranks and then generate a QR code that just says butts. And what we determined, like kind of right at the end, is that we were just like generating this QR code as fast as the update method was being called. So we're just like generating QR codes after QR codes after QR codes. So we need to change how this is done. And so tonight, one of the things I want to work on is like, why are we doing this in the repaint step? We should be doing this separately, probably in the menu item callback, but we'll figure that out. Hi, Steve, you're back.
I'm back. You did you catch everyone up?
I think so. I also need to say that I need to do a little bit of project management or like Git management here. I haven't committed and pushed.
Hey, yeah,
So
that's okay.
I think
It
that's
happens
where I
to the
want to
best of us.
start.
Okay.
Let's get a commit together. Get that going. Okay. So let's see. What do we have here? So this was just like some metadata stuff I wanted to do. So I'll just commit that. This is like update Nova metadata. Oh my God! Why? You see what just happened to me?
No, I didn't see it.
I am
Oh,
currently in
yeah,
a
there it
state
is.
where my pair is not the newest pair. So that probably means I need to do another install of pair quick. Pardon me while I figure this out.
npm install, is that how it gets installed?
I think I do yarn. I just can't remember the syntax.
Oh, because you're cool. I forgot.
Wait, why doesn't it work?
Cool guy John with his yarn.
Do you not use yarn?
No, because I don't know why I should. Tell me why I should.
Because like npm's stupid or something.
I feel like there used to be performance reasons to use yarn, and I feel like I've read that those went away. And honestly, npm doesn't slow me down. So
Problem. Okay, so I had to like reinstall pair real quick there, which was just a yarn global add at john.red/pair that got me onto the version of pair in this ASDF context. I use ASDF, so maybe I installed it in something that wasn't Node 20.
a different version of Node, yeah.
Yeah,
I do that all the time.
Yes. Anyway, so that's all fixed now. I amended that, so that's cool now. Let's keep working on getting this commit together. So we need those things. We need that. Let's edit this and remove the print. And that.
But
We'll call that a commit, I think. So this is like
butts.
Show the QR code. I don't care. Whatever. It's good enough.
It's a garbage commit, anyways. We're gonna fix it. This is why Pablo's just named some things like boom.
Okay, so now I've also got an untracked file here. I think I want to ignore this. Yeah, I think you would ignore a build artifact, right?
Yeah, I think that's pretty typical. And then it would become part of your CI process.
PX. Artifacts. Not a very good speller. I think that's what it is. And
that's what keeps you from programming faster, is your spelling.
Yeah.
What keeps me from programming faster is using npm instead of yarn. we each are just like
to each his own, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, let's GP that up to github.com.
GP stands for git push.
That does. Yes. Okay, so one goal we should work towards is that like you can run this stuff on your machine so we can switch off pairing.
Yeah.
maybe that happens tonight, maybe not, but at least we've achieved that this stuff is committed and shared. Um,
Yes, I love it.
so where should we head next? Because you wanted to do some sharing as well. Is this a good point to maybe do that?
I mean, are you ready to just like lose ourselves in a massive rabbit hole worm can of what are we even doing?
Um, Worm
Because I
can?
have questions. I have, yeah, can of worms. I don't know. Did you know that I learned today that the expression horse apiece? Do you know the expression a horse apiece?
Maybe say it in context of something.
So like NPM yarn, it's a horse apiece.
Oh, so it's like these things are equivalent. I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
sure I've heard that.
yeah.
Maybe.
I have used this expression my entire life and not known that it's a regional thing.
Okay,
So I learned today that it is regional.
got it. Like pretty hyper regional. If
Yeah, probably more like
someone that's
local
in Illinois
than
and
regional.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, yeah. So okay, I'll just start. And John, like I have told you multiple times, I have no idea where I'm going with this, other than I'm sorry,
no, this is great
other
content
than
for the stream.
leading us towards this goal of not DOSing ourselves with
Mm,
QR code renders,
mhm.
and not even just the QR code, like just the even the text when we were just rendering the crank count. Even that is like, we'll look at this together. Even that is like just constantly updating the screen, and it's not like an intensive update, but it
Right.
is constantly happening, and we shouldn't be doing that. Okay, stopping talking, and I'm going to share my screen. Share screen, entire screen, that one. Ooh, it's going to be tunnels.
What'd you do?
I've updated my browser, but I didn't change the system preferences to allow sharing.
But that should be fine. That'll be easy.
Okay, but I have to leave to do it.
You do.
Yeah, it's making me leave.
Okay.
I'll be right back. Tell a story. What's your favorite concert that you've ever seen? Tell that story.
Okay. So my concert story. I think I even have told Steve this before. Um, One of my first concerts was seeing this band Deftones in downtown Chicago when I was 15 or 16. Felt very cool. And who opened for them but none other than Limp Bizkit. So I saw Limp Bizkit, who became this huge band, open for a much beloved metal band called Deftones. And the lead singer of Deftones, actually kind of like Steve's story, did some very intense crowd surfing, and I was in love with live music from that point on. It's a great concert. Um, Another concert highlight was seeing Nine Inch Nails on Northerly Island in Chicago, outside of Chicago. Um, Excellent venue. Northerly Island is a great place to see a show. Nine Inch Nails is one of my favorite bands, and they were killer. Hey, it's Steve.
Christopher Cross opened for the Deftones.
Christopher Cross.
Do you know who I'm talking about
No,
when I say that?
are you saying crisscross?
No, I'm not saying Chris Cross. I'm saying Christopher Cross. I
Do you
think
think
that's
it's
his name.
weird how there was like crisscross? I'll make you jump around or whatever.
Oh
I'll
no,
make
you just mashed up two songs there, friend. That's two
yeah,
different
jump,
songs.
jump, and then but
Yep.
like there was a lot of jumping in that era of music. That's why I got them mixed up.
Yes, but Christopher Cross is totally different. That's like not even yacht rock, like
Hmm.
soft rock, soft rock.
Hmm.
Anyways, I look forward to finding out who opened for them and how that concert went. And in the meantime, I'm going to continue to click the buttons to share my screen.
Okay.
I think super hot content.
Yeah, people love this kind of stream. All right,
Tunnels. Get
tunnels.
rid of the tunnels. All right, John. I'm
Yes.
going to start you off with a very basic question. How do I make a game for Playdate? And the question that I really want to ask here is, I'll make this a little bit bigger. Are we doing the right thing?
Oh, okay.
There's two great ways to develop games for the Playdate SDK and Playdate Pulp. Do you know about Playdate Pulp?
Playdate Pulp is another editing interface, I believe. It's like a browser-based editor.
It's a game development environment that runs entirely in your web browser, letting you put together
Yes.
rooms, tiles, scripts, and sounds to make your own games. It's
Yes.
like a it's like a cheat code for building a game. So
Have
I
you
just
used
want to
it?
I no, I haven't. I just wanted to step back and say, like, we're doing the right thing, right? Like, you want to actually dig into the SDK and not get a game out there quickly. This is more like, let's learn how to build things with the SDK.
Yes.
Okay.
I did briefly look at Pulp. In fact, I was trying to see what it would be like to make Snake Game with it.
Oh yeah.
And pretty quickly, I was like, this is too confining. Not that it can't maybe do it, but that I felt confined when I then went and looked at the Nova and the SDK. I felt more like, okay, this is like more what I was expecting, more what I'm used to.
Got it. Okay. That's
So
good enough
I
for
don't
me.
know.
It's good enough for me, and it's all I really wanted to ask about.
Okay.
Okay, I do not have latest, so I'm moving on because you told me it was fine.
So maybe bump the font size pretty
Oh
small.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I do not have latest
Okay.
of the code that you just pushed up, but I don't care because I want to do something real simple, which is actually taking a step
Oh,
backwards.
you've done a little bit of tinkering here.
I have done some tinkering,
Nice.
and I don't think anything happens there right now. Whatever, we'll still run it. I
Your
think this will get
Nova
me back
looks
to a
so weird.
state. My Nova looks weird. You mean my VS Code? So I have VS Code running, and I did install an extension that we have talked about
Yeah.
previously, which is that there is for the Playdate this cool extension built by our great friend Orta,
Yeah.
who yeah is really great and adds some of the things,
Yeah.
some of the features that you have in Nova. So I'm just going to run this app. This is stepping back to when we were basically we were updating. Our update function was clearing the screen, and it was, I don't know why I'm actually even doing this. Oh yeah, because it's the exit way. It's just getting the crank count, and then this is actually not right, but I don't care. Let's run it and see what happens. Run app in Playdate Simulator. It's broken. Who cares? Let's not even count the cranks. I don't
Okay.
even care about the cranks. We're just going to clear, and we're going to draw the text. And this is, let's see, local message equals cranks are cool.
Okay.
So we'll run this in the Playdate Simulator, and you will notice that this screen is like orange, and the reason it is orange is because I did a thing that I can't remember how to undo. Oh, so when I go into my Playdate menu, I have this
Mm,
highlight screen updates option. So
interesting.
I'll uncheck that. So this is just saying cranks are cool. It looks like it's fine. Like we just have that text showing there in one place. But if you check this item that says highlight screen updates, everything that's updating gets shown in orange. This is like, for me as a like typically more front end web developer, this is similar to what I would do in the React dev tools, where I would be like paint the components that are updating so that I can see them. That's, I think, what's happening here. So what we can see is this text is updating constantly, right?
Yeah.
Because it's in our update loop, and so it's updating
Yep.
this text every single time. One thing that's interesting is when I hit the menu button, it stops updating it, and you can actually see now. I don't know if this comes across the stream, but there's a
I can see
flicker
it.
on
Yeah,
that
I do see it.
time, which
Hmm.
looks to me like it's updating every second or so. So it's probably like, that's how I would expect it to be running behind the scenes, is like it's every 1 second it's checking the time and updating it here,
Hmm.
which is, once we hit 325, it'll flip over, which
Yeah.
is great. but it's not constantly orange like the one that we saw before. So this is like very
This smells to you.
demonstrative. This smells to me, and it's I think also very like it demonstrates what's going on with the QR code stuff too.
Yeah.
So this is like just a way for us to I think visualize what we're being horrible monsters about.
Do you know the punchline? Do you know what we're supposed to do
Oh God,
differently?
no, John.
Oh,
I
okay.
have like multiple steps along the way that I can show you.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna kind of walk through what I thought about this. Do you know the punchline? Because I'll shut up if
No,
you know the
I don't.
punchline.
No.
Okay. Okay, so let's kill this because I don't need it. So one of the things that I thought after we talked about how we were going to try to fix this was like somebody's done this before. Like
Mm.
somebody has built a thing where like you can update the text and it'll update it with like with a sprite, which is basically I'm such a total noob game developer. Like I know nothing, but I think that sprites are basically what you want to do with elements that are on the screen so that you're only re-rendering them when something changes with them.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes, please do, because I probably don't know the answer, but it's a good check.
So I thought that when people use the term sprite, like in game development,
Yes.
my understanding of that concept is that it's a technique to essentially make one image that is almost like a superset of all of your images, and then
Ooh.
you sort of like move it around and only render the part of the sprite that is relevant. So I thought sprites were more about like almost an image optimization, um,
Yeah.
and less to do with like fixing a renderer, like a too chatty rendering.
So here's what
I'm
I
struggling
think
to see
about
the
that.
connection, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, yeah, for sure. We're gonna get into the docs
Okay.
about sprites, and maybe we'll do that sooner rather than later. I had thought about getting there later, but we'll get there sooner. I what you're describing to me sounds like the concept of web sprites, which
Mm.
is like a I don't mean to date you here, John, but it's like well, I remember it coming about in the probably mid 2000s or like 2010 or so,
Mm.
where it was like this technique to use CSS style sheets and one giant layout of all the images, the icons that you would need in your entire website, and then use CSS to position it so that only that particular thing was showing. I think that sprites refers to something more general, which is like I'm not going to say it well, but I think it is. In fact, I'm going to say it the way that you basically said it, which is like the optimization of images. But I think it's different in games because, like in with the update loop, it allows you to basically put this thing on the screen, optimize how you're rendering it in the sense that you're rendering it the first time when it's in that particular spot. And if you hit a button to move it, you render it again in that spot. But you don't render it, move, render. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Yes. Next clarifying question.
Yes.
Isn't a part of our problem the fact that we're clearing the screen is the first step in that loop? Like if you went back to the simulator and you played that code again, but you took out the
The clear
clearing,
screen.
I assume all that orange goes away.
No, let's do it. Do you? Because I actually remember what will happen, and I think you will too. So let's. You just want me to get rid of this, right? This
Correct.
line.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's do that, and then let's run it again. Oops. Okay, so it's not the entire screen that's re-rendering, but it is still the cranks are cool text that's rendering. Do you remember when we were counting cranks, when we actually hooked into the crank count? It
It
was
was like
overwriting
piled.
itself. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
And that's what
That's
caused us to do that clear.
yep, exactly.
Okay, so it is true that clearing every render loop causes the entire screen to get repainted. So
Yes.
I probably overdid it with that playdate graphics.clear.
I mean, it was baby steps, right?
Problem
Like
I
we
was
got
trying
there.
to solve was the stacking of the rendering.
Yep.
Okay,
When
my
in
next.
reality, like from a truly performance oriented perspective, what we really want is we want to redraw, we want to clear and redraw only when that value changes.
Got it.
You know what I mean? So like we want a callback function basically that when we reach a certain point where the number has increased, we'll go clear that value and then re-render it. But we only want to do it when the value actually changes, which is
Okay.
similar to like the sprite images or like sprites representing your your player character, in that you only want to redraw it when it moves or changes its like goes from like chompy to closed mouth or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. The Playdate SDK includes a number of example applications.
It does.
I wonder if we open one up, would we see a different style of rendering that's less chatty?
Yeah. So this is actually well, let me ask you this. Do you want to talk more about sprites? Do you want to learn more about sprites together?
Sure.
Or do you want to
I'm
just
just
kind
getting
of delay
stuck
that?
on like which
Yeah, yeah.
part of this implementation needs to change, but um, maybe I can try to turn that part of my brain off.
So, okay, so if we go to the sprites docs, which is that large enough for you? I'll make it one bigger.
Yeah, it's good.
The this is my complaints about the docs is it's very API driven.
Mm-hmm.
It's I cannot find a place where it's like, hey, you're gonna want to use sprites for this, and this is really what they are, and this is
Like more of a
etc.
narrative,
Yes, more of a narrative, more of a like a solve a specific problem type
right?
of thing.
Like recommendations.
So I take it back. I actually don't know how to like help us learn stuff about if this is the right thing. So so I guess I'll just like forget that and go the route that I was headed, which was I know that somebody has solved this problem before. And so this is an interesting thing to me. Like this, I actually stumbled across this because I was like, okay, just give me an example of a Playdate app that renders text.
Right.
Because I know that they're not re-rendering every single cycle, every single tick. So I found this, which is this PD dialog, a Playdate dialog system. I'll try to make it bigger. I don't know if you understand what's going on here, but this is basically like something that you would see in any sort of like a lot of games where you're would it be an RPG game? Is that what I'm looking for?
Right.
Where you're like basically like wandering around a town, like interacting with people. You would
Yep,
see this
totally.
kind of thing where there's like this dialogue box and it renders the text one character at a time, so you're actually
Mm-hmm.
like reading it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is slow, and I'm sorry that I like to slow things down. But what I wanted to do here is let's just implement this example because it's going to show that why I think this is the right track. So I have basically pulled in, I've imported this PD dialog, and then I've added this init function. And in the init function, I'm using the PD dialog API. I'm calling say, and I just have it dumping out some plain text with like a
Okay.
crap ton of text because you'll see why. And then in my update function, I'm going to call this PD dialog.update. I'm going to get rid of this stuff that we were trying to do because I just don't care about that anymore. In fact, I'll just add some space there. So this is another part of the PD dialog update or API that I just was following the directions, honestly, not
Mm-hmm.
really doing much of anything special. So I'm going to run this in the app simulator. And what we see is here's like, it tells me all this stuff. The rest of the screen isn't re-rendering. That's great. It is waiting here. I don't
But
really know
look,
why. But if I hit that A, like it wants me to hit that A key,
mm-hmm.
it stops. Do you know what I mean?
Interesting.
So it's not re-rendering anymore, which is
Interesting.
what we want.
That was when you hit A that it stopped rendering?
Yeah, and I think like, let me just, how do I rerun it from the start? Is there a way to do that from right here? This refresh button? Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm gonna actually hit this A button next to see if that's. I think it's like it's expecting me to interact. So I don't know why it waits for me to interact to continue, but it does.
Okay, whatever.
But this
Um,
is still a heck of a lot better than what we're doing, right?
I'm not convinced.
You're not convinced. What are you not convinced
I
about?
am convinced that clearing the whole screen between renders, terrible idea. Shouldn't do that.
Yep.
But um, are they clearing a region or something? And then
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, we can look into the code for this if you want to see how they're doing it. The other thing I started doing more searches. Pavlos, by the way, says the Artsy app had a dialog box too.
oh yeah,
So
for
isn't
the
that neat?
maybe it's like the tombstone info of the piece you were looking at.
Yeah. I remember there being dialogue information, but I don't remember caring about whether it was re-rendering or not.
Okay, so where do you want to head next?
So we can look at the code here, but what I actually want to do is like this is where I started down this like this is I think where I decided that it was sprites that we wanted to do.
Okay.
And so there's lots of conversations in the Playdate forums about sprites with text. And so this is like this guy's asking about, or this person is asking about like rendering the time. And they're using a sprite font. And the whatever. There's not much interesting to say here other than like people are having these conversations, and we're not the first person to not understand what we're doing. What I ended up with here was to, at some point, somebody talks about actually building a something into sprite with text. Maybe it's not this one. Somebody starts talking about like something that ended up becoming built into the SDK. And is this the one sprite with no, but here this is where here's like kind of what you're saying is like they are doing a clear. They're clearing the screen and then that's a bad example. I don't actually know what I'm talking about there. Let me find the example that I'm looking for, or the conversation that I'm looking for. Oh yeah, this is the one. So where they're just like, the question is, for battery life, it's good to not keep drawing things on every update. In my game, I have sprites which are not drawing each frame, but text, how is the best way of doing text? Hey, this is us. Before we were doing QR codes. I have draw text on update right now, so that means my never changing text updates each frame. The easiest way is to create a sprite and draw your text inside its draw method.
Inside its draw.
That way it'll not be redrawn until moved or dirty. And then they talk about a post here, and then somebody says the latest SDK has new functions. So there's sprite with text, which if we go and look at sprite with text, I can't figure out the API for it. I can't understand it. So so sprite with text takes like the text that you want to render, max width, max height, a few other optional things.
A
It's a convenience function, spelled incorrectly, that creates a sprite with an image of text as generated with image with text. The arguments are the same as those in image with text. Fine. Sprite returns sprite and text was truncated.
Okay.
This is maybe a Lua construct that I don't understand, is returning multiple variables.
Okay.
Sprite is a newly curated sprite with its image set to an image of the text specified. The sprite's dimensions may be smaller than max width, max height. Fine, I don't really care. Like basically, I think what I want is I want access to the sprite. And then it says like, you'll generally want to call Playdate graphics sprite update once in your Playdate update method to ensure that your sprites are updated and drawn every frame. Failure to do so may mean your sprites will not appear on screen. This gets more confusing. And then I get into, okay, like even if it's not a text-based sprite, how the F do we actually like control this, right? I just noticed Pavlos has a question. Why do you care if it's re-rendering now? Pavlos, I think that the reason that we care about it is because the text isn't so much the problem, but it's like very related to the bigger problem, which is that the QR code is a very intensive
It's expensive
action,
to make that
expensive.
to generate the QR code, and we are generating it on every tick of the update re-render, and we're just like DDoSing our game.
Totally.
So I get the motivation to want to reduce that. And we talked about maybe doing it in one of the callbacks you get when you pick the menu item. And so I think
Yeah.
we could probably solve that. But then we're also like discussing this larger topic of re-rendering and trying to figure out like, are we missing some best practice? Are we
Right.
missing? Yeah.
Exactly. Like,
And so it might be that we aren't, or it might be that we are. And so we're trying to like discover that.
yeah. I mean, I think as we would get into doing anything more complex, we would care more about what we were
Right.
re-rendering. Like, we're literally rendering like one piece of text, and that really does not matter from a performance standpoint. Like, who cares? It's not breaking the game. But we might want to do more than that.
One other thought I had while we've been discussing this is like the one of the things that people really like about React is how it helps us think about rendering on a web page.
Yeah, totally.
And there's an idea of like a virtual DOM versus the actual DOM, a diffing process, and only when there's a diff does a certain part of the page get redrawn.
Yep.
Anything else that hasn't been updated wouldn't get a re-render, which has me thinking about like you could almost imagine refactoring it such that only if the ticks have changed would we re-render the text,
Yep. Exactly.
almost like a should render or will, like that kind of idea. Anyway, just other thoughts that are occurring to me.
Yeah, React Lua is basically what we're looking to build at this point. We're not doing that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Pablo says, right, I won't interrupt more, but text re-render seems different than QR def
Your
loop.
death loop.
Yeah, I agree with that. Probably making the QR generate not in the main loop, but in a callback
Yeah.
should help. Won't be talking anymore. Sorry. Pavlos, you're smarter than us, both of us put together on this stuff.
You should
So
talk all you
keep
want.
talking. You should be driving. Okay, so there's one more thing that I want to do on my end, and then I want to shut up and stop talking and let you actually do like the adult programming. But I get weird errors that I don't understand, that maybe I don't care about. But I want to just look at this particular
Oh yeah, you said you
call
had a
right
hard
here.
time getting this API to work.
Yeah. So this function, playdate graphics sprite with text, takes text max width max height at the minimum, and it says it returns a sprite and text was truncated. So let's try to actually just call that. I don't even care about anything else. Let's just I'm gonna in my
You've
update.
imported the thing you need to import, correct?
Yes. So if
Line
I
3
don't think that
maybe.
they actually tell me here what I
Oh,
need
they
to
do. It's
import
like in that little.
further up.
I think if you scroll back down, there's a purple. You must import core lib
Core lib
spritz.
spritz. Core lib spritz is there. So is core libs graphics and object. I don't. That's from
Perfect.
other things that I did. I don't know.
Okay,
But
so call
okay.
this thing.
So sprite with text.
Oh, right. You get back a sprite, and then now what do you do with that sprite? I think I
Yeah.
see maybe some
Okay.
of the
So one of the
visual.
things that it also said was that you should call playdate.graphics.sprite.update inside of your update loop. That's why that's there. And then I am going to call this init function at the start. So that jumps us back up here to init. And all I'm going to do here is I want to grab I'm going to call sprite with text. And I want to emit some text. And I want to put it, or the max width, max height here. And it should be returned as a sprite. I don't know that you can see this, but I get an error here. Undefined field sprite with text. Lua diagnostics undefined field. Sprite with text unknown. I don't understand that. These things right here, sprite move to and sprite add, are some things that I saw in some other example. I'm gonna leave them there, and I'm just gonna try to run this. Like maybe this is just weird error that I'm seeing for some reason. I don't know why in the compile time, but it's actually not a real problem. Or in the code editor, but it's not but it actually compiles and runs. It doesn't seem to be the case. Sprite with text is
Right.
not callable a nil value.
Can I see the docs again?
I don't understand what the hell is going on. You can if I can figure out how to get to them.
Yeah, you're missing a thing.
What am I missing?
Playdate.graphics.sprite.sprite with text.
Oh, you mad genius. Mad genius.
But hold on, it returns two things,
Yes, and
and
I
you
don't know how
won't.
to represent that
Can
in
you try
Lua.
like a comma and then like what if it's like sprite comma right? It's just a
So,
guess. I
okay.
have no idea.
I mean, like, we can just do this and run it. And we don't see any errors. That's good. We don't see anything. That's what I would expect because I'm not actually doing anything that I think I'm doing. So then I started looking at other sprite things like move to, moves the sprite and resets the bounds based on the image dimensions and center. So I would think that this is a thing that will position it.
Yeah.
But now I don't know. Oops, that's not what I expected to happen. Now I don't know how to call this thing because if I use that colon on the variable that I got back, I get squiggly lines, undefined field move to. If I change it to a dot, it's the same.
By the way, I looked in the Lua.org docs. Multiple returns are indeed set by, name a variable, comma, name a variable. So that was correct.
Cool.
All right. So
You're smart.
sorry, can I see move to again? I was really distracted by that other thing.
So here's an
Oh, great.
example of using a sprite. So they do sprite.new, which I think gets handled by us calling sprite with text. Then, so they define it as a local. Maybe that matters. I don't know if I did that.
Let's try it.
Local. Sprite. Other thing is unused. That's fine. Sprite move to need check nil. I mean, like this is the example that you're giving me.
Weird. Oh, this does not reflect how you should use set background drawing callback in your game.
Where do you see
Maybe
that?
click on a basic Playdate
there.
game in Lua.
So let's look for. So we do local player image equals
Oh,
that's player
look.
image. That's different.
Look at that
Sprite.new.
next line. Assert player image. What's that doing?
Oh, that's totally null checking.
Yeah.
Assert sprite.
Now
John, you're
wait.
such a good computer programmer.
It's not true. Okay, can you go back to the
I know.
example for a second?
Yes.
I don't know if that local stuff was just they're also doing local. I think it's worth trying to scope it as tight as possible.
I agree.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if I get rid of it. Or at least it doesn't give me squiggles if I get rid of it.
Yeah.
It also looked like from the example that I don't need to do anything with that.
Oh, okay, great.
Like, I forget what that thing was. It was like a exceeds boundaries or something.
Totally.
So this seems like it's a thing that works.
What do you think that assert does?
I think that, let's see, raises an error
No,
if the
not
value of
that.
its arguments is false.
Raises an
Nil or
error.
false.
Huh. Don't love it because I mean, whatever. It's fine. Let's keep going.
Don't love it. Tell me more.
Well, it's like I should be able to catch or like, I don't want my user to just have an error in their game. So there's got to be something else to be done here.
Sure, and I bet that there is a way to do that, but I think that this is like I'm dating myself again because going back to like the days of when Elm was really popular
Mm,
10 years ago, they always said like, oh, it makes impossible states impossible. And I think that this is a similar like strong typing thing where it's like they won't let you do this if you don't account for the fact that it can also be null. So you have to account for the fact that it's null somehow. And in this case, this is probably just a really heavy-handed, like blunt way to do it, and that it's a code example. And they, they don't want to make it more complex than they need to for you to understand it. There's
got it.
probably, like you said, a better way to do this.
Yeah.
Does that ease your mind at all?
That appeases my part of my brain
Spidey sense.
that was having trouble.
All right, so let's run this and see what happens. John, we have text and it's not re-rendering. Okay, so this is why I think this is important. I think this is important because I think it leads us down this path of like, how are we going to deal with the QR code? I think we should be dealing with the QR code with this sprite idea of like, we should be painting the QR code as a sprite and only updating it when like we change from butts to, what's another naughty word I can say? Farts.
PP.
Oh, no, that one we can't say. Okay.
I have a question. No, sorry.
Yeah.
It was potty humor. Go ahead.
No, what's your question?
No, I just was curious. What do you think is
how are babies made?
what do you
where do
think
babies
is
come from?
funnier? Poop or poo? It's poo. The answer is poo. Poop or poo? Poo's funnier.
So
It's a funnier word.
here's my issue is that I actually don't think either of them are funny. I think both are disgusting. Like butts, farts, haha, cool. Boobs, that's great. Poop is where I draw the line.
Okay.
I'm like,
All right, folks, you heard it here first.
Nope, that's Chris.
I found Stephen Hicks' line,
you pushed me to the edge.
and I feel pretty good about it.
When our children were babies, that was like, I could handle all the vomit in the world.
But wait a minute.
Like I could be barfed on like 17 times and be like, oh, the baby puked again. But the second there was like a poop explosion, I was like, get this thing
Headed
off
for the
of
hills.
me and you deal with it.
Hey, Steve, we are cheating here. We
We are.
claiming success when we only call init once.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think-
Well,
But I think that that's all that we need to do. Like init creates the sprite, and we only move this thing once. So if we had a scenario where like you hit the B button and it moves it to the right, or like an arrow button and it moves it to the right, we would call sprite move to, and it would re-render.
so are you saying that you want to smuggle sprite out of this init function so that it's available to us in the update function?
That's a really good point, and I think what I have seen here is that this init function is an example of like, again, like just get the damn thing working for demonstration purposes. I've seen a lot more in the examples that I've been scrolling right past because they didn't make sense to me. I've been seeing a lot more object-oriented programming of like you're creating this sprite, this thing that a sprite represents it visually, but it can move, and then like it has access to all of the variables that it needs in order to move it, which would be like the sprite. Which I think you're gonna love that shit. Like from what I know about you and your Ruby and Rails programming.
But
You're
just
gonna
to
just knock that
satisfy
out
my
of the park.
curiosity, can
Yes.
we comment the init the init call under update, and then do some of this inside of that update
Oh sure.
function?
Yes, I think we can
And will
absolutely
we see it re-rendering?
Oh yes, I bet we will. Let's do it. Oh, this is fun. Should we do this before or after we call sprite update?
Let's do it after.
Okay. Look at that. It's orange.
But
Constantly
that's to be
orange, so it's
expected.
constantly updating.
We are doing this over and over and over. Now, what if I want Steve to be like random or something. I want to see if it's like
You want to see it
overlapping.
change?
Like, is it
Oh,
suffering from that defect of overlapping, or is it just
that's a good question. Is there anything random in here? Get seconds since epoch.
sure.
Does that work for you?
Yeah. And then you could use that string concat stuff to get it in there.
And you want it inside of the update loop, or do you want it?
I
Can we
want
do it
30.
both ways?
Sorry?
Say
You want to
it.
call init from in here? Is that what you're saying?
I want to try it both ways. I want to try
Okay.
it like okay. Let's do it. Let's do it here first. Local now equals that, and then we'll say sprite with text now,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
And so now this should constantly. I think this will overwrite it. I think we'll
But see,
see
that
this
should
overwriting.
be a string, but you're giving it likely something that's not a string. I guess we'll see.
It says it's nil. Fuck that shit.
We'll play it. Let's see what
Oops.
happens. Yeah.
Attempt to index a number value. Look at you.
So I think you want to do like um, local message equals and then like some string dot 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 and then the get seconds from yeah
But it
yeah
doesn't
dot dot.
this isn't this still going to something 75?
What?
Constantly updated. What?
I don't understand that result. What?
Is there a that so this feels like it's it's massively rounding or something. How about play get time instead?
Sure.
Maybe that's
What
different.
does it return? Yeah, just try that. Okay.
Returns a table. That's gonna be weird. I don't know how to deal with that. I mean, we can just watch it and see what happens.
Probably get a panic or an error or something.
Yeah, attempt to concatenate a table value. That makes sense. What?
Nothing's
Why is
easy.
that weird? Nothing is easy.
All I was trying to ferret out was whether or not it was drawing on top of each other or if it was contained in this. I don't know. What?
Let's try
So we have 3
this.
minutes left. Where do we want to
Okay.
get here?
I like proving out what you're trying to prove. I think that if we can leave this with confidence, look at that.
Yes. See, I knew there'd
That's
be
what you want to
something like
see.
this.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So now I think if we move this back into our init function, like that, and now we call init once, I think we will see it just once, and it won't be updated. Oops. And the reason that I like doing this is because if we can leave this with the confidence that this is what we need to do, how we can solve the problem with the QR code, we can head that route next time. Like we don't even need to apply this to the text. I don't care. I think it's the right way to do it moving forward, but I think it suggests to us that we have the right path for solving the problem for the QR code.
Right.
Something 3 and it's not updating, which I think proves it. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's like I want to. I'm still really missing that. When we were looking at the docs, you were sort of saying, "I wish there was more of a narration or some kind of like."
Yeah.
I'm still missing. I want them to say to me what they mean when they say sprite, and that it isn't this thing that I have in my mind, which is like a technique for smushing a bunch of images into one GIF, so you make one network request instead of many. And anyway, so I'm just like kind of still stuck on that. It almost sounds like when they say sprite, they just mean like a render zone, like a zone of the screen, and that sprite has some properties that cause it to behave a little bit differently than just rendering to the screen, just rendering text to the screen or something. But I don't know. I'm
Okay.
still a little stuck.
Okay. Can I do? I would like to do research before we hang out again to try to find something that gives us a more authoritative description of what the hell these things are, if they're even the right thing. I'm gonna stop my share because I think we're done here, right?
Yes.
Like we can see each other's faces now, and I can look up instead of down.
Good work
You
doing that
you
research.
still have a lot of reservations about this, and I respect that.
Yeah.
And I look forward to proving to you that I 17% know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I think you do too. I'm just missing a couple pieces that I need to have connected for
Yep.
myself.
Yeah. Hey, Pavlos, thanks for hanging out with us the whole time.
Yes. So fun to have you
Anybody
there.
else who hung out with us the whole time, you were great too.
If anybody's watching this later, you should have been here now.
And you probably could have explained to us what the hell a sprite is.
Okay.
All right.
Steve, always a pleasure. One of my favorite rad dads out there.
Oh, not the favorite. That's slightly offensive.
No, I mean I just like how
No,
I just
tell me
know
more.
a lot of
Who do
rad
I
dads.
have
That's
to?
that's what
Who
it
do I
is.
have
Who do I have
to?
to off?
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. We're gonna fix this rendering
We're gonna
problem.
bounce.
Yeah. Okay, love you too.
Love you too. Love you, Pavlos.
Oh,